comes out. And apparently that's how many of you feel about Congress, because according to a new Fox News poll, if Americans had only these two choices, one, keep all the current members of Congress, or two, get rid of all incumbents, 68% of you would remove all incumbents. Ouch. Only 20% of you would keep Congress we have. Joining us live is former Senator Rick Santorum, and I can hardly see you over this.
The bill. The mountain.
The mountain bill. All right. That's 68%. Doesn't sound too good.
No, look, that's why they're having trouble getting the votes over there. I mean, what I've seen is that there are 33 no votes publicly announced. If they get 38, they can't pass the bill. So everyone's talking about how close they are to getting the votes. The real question is how close they are to not getting the votes and what's happening.
How many undecided, if they only need 5 more?
I'd say there's probably at least a dozen or more truly undecideds out there.
Because everyone's got these numbers, and we think that now that she's got the numbers, but they're so fluid, they constantly change.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of hard to predict at this point.
Look, the bottom line is the American public is making a difference. I would have. We've talked about this off the record. I mean, I would have thought.
Don't worry, nobody else is listening to us. Only 2 million. Just us.
Well, no, off camera.
Off camera.
I'm talking that I just didn't. I thought this was a hopeless. I really thought with almost 40 votes to spare, she couldn't lose. I mean, when we were in the majority in the House. I mean, if we had 6 or 7 vote majority, we would stick together and somehow we'd make it pass.
But if you think of those, I've got Caterpillar, which is a business. You've got
$100 million. I
mean, they say about having the American Medical Association, but the membership in the AMA is only about 28%. Yeah. So that means like 72%
like the bill.
or may not like it. You've got the Hispanic citizens who are upset about the immigration.
You've got some of these other things, some of these state problems, like Oregon. Peter DeFazio is one of the guys out there who's a hardcore liberal, loves this bill, but it really doesn't do well by Oregon. Massachusetts, Stephen Lynch today came out and said no. And you got Mike Capuano and some other guys in Massachusetts saying, well, we may not do this because of the Massachusetts Romney care. It could be impacted adversely by Obamacare and actually hurt the people up there. So there's so many moving parts here to suggest that this is a done deal, even when they go to the floor. I think she's going to go to the floor without the votes, and she's going to hope that there's enough people who say this. I'll be with you if you really, put in as many reallys as you want, really need me, I'll be there. And it's how many people will actually deliver from that.
But here's the problem. She needs 216. If she gets 216, that means that every single vote is the reason why we have health care. So I don't care where you are. If you go back to a district and they're 216, they're just going to say, if you hadn't voted yes, we wouldn't have this.
That's why.
Or if it's 217, they're going to get trashed with they're part of the gang of 2.
Right.
You and your buddy or something.
If the first time that they voted this in the House, they did 218 is what they needed to pass. They got 219. They got 220 because a Republican after all the 208.
So you're one of the 3.
So, but the Republican threw in late, and he's not going to vote for it this time. So they
from New Orleans?
Right, okay. New Orleans, yeah, Gal. They are going to try to get 217, and I think it'll be actually easier to get 217 than 216. Let me explain. Once you've gotten 216, then
nobody's going to
right. Then it's passed, and if you're the last vote, you say, well, it was already passed. My vote didn't make a difference, but it does make a difference for exactly why you say, because now they can't run ads saying your members vote pass this, and that's why they will absolutely, if they pass it, they'll pass it with 217, not 216.
Well, I was just talking with Governor Peel on the whole issue of bipartisanship and stepping aside who wins, who loses. I mean, when you have such a divided issue, whether it's shirts or skins in terms of who's voting for this, it really is ugly. Because and with 56% of the polls of American people not being for it, there does come a point where it really is people pushing it on others and not sort of thinking, maybe we ought to sort of gather together and this might be a good idea, even if you're not in favor of it.
Greta, what I think you've described is really a suicide mission that they're on right now. This is political suicide.
But that may be political suicide, but the problem is that everybody who's out there is sitting at home tonight, is going to have to live with it.
They are.
And it's like, there may be sacrificial lambs come November, but if it is something someone really doesn't want, the person can only punish in the end, punish in November, but still must live with something so profound as.
You've said it very well. I mean, the bottom line is that if it's political suicide, they will pay a price, but we're going to get this law, and there's some good things that could happen. Look at this. You should count how many times in this piece of legislation it says the secretary shall. What's that mean? That means the secretary. No. The secretary shall do this. In other words, it gives instruction to the secretary to promulgate rules and regulations to execute this bill. hundreds, if not thousands of places in this bill. That's language in there. You know what that means, regulations. Do you realize how long it's going to take? How the lobbyists are going to make billions of dollars in this town implementing this bill over a period of years.
I got to go, or I'm going to be out of a job with my producer.
Okay.
Anyway, Senator, thank you.
You bet.
Next, check out